Hi, welcome everybody to the Clarusway e-success event. My name is Tyler and I will be your moderator or interviewer today. And I'd like everybody to welcome Johnston. She is a LinkedIn expert and I'm excited today. We're going to learn a lot, hopefully, and let's give a warm welcome to Lanier. If you'd like to introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background, that would be wonderful.
Sure. So I'm Linnea Johnston and I'm from New Zealand, and I am a LinkedIn fan. I've been working with LinkedIn for quite a number of years. I'm the author of 2 books about LinkedIn. One of them is on the Book Authority's list of best LinkedIn books of all time. The other is the world's first book about LinkedIn company pages. I'm also an author of a lot of content on LinkedIn. I'm a strategist, I'm a marketer. My business Linkability works with clients all around the world to help them achieve their LinkedIn goals. So I'm also the founder of the Linkability members community for those who are serious about LinkedIn. So when I said I'm a fan of LinkedIn, I meant I'm a fan of LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, I definitely need to get on your level, Lanier. So I'm definitely really excited for this conversation. Excuse me. And um, yeah, just a quick question: the Linkability members community. Could you explain a little bit more about that for us?
Yeah, sure. So that's where people who really want to get to grips with LinkedIn and make it a success for them in terms of their own marketing and their personal brand get together to look at a whole load of content about the site and how it works, and also to work with each other, to ask each other questions. So when I say a community, what I mean is that everybody helps each other along the way, and we're able to share really good up-to-date information about LinkedIn that might not be available elsewhere. And if anyone's looking to find out how to get a free week to try it out for themselves, they can go to wordwizard.co.nz. That's wordwizard.co.nz, and you can then just go to the members section of that.
All right, excellent. Very good. Well, Lanier, I have a bunch of questions, and I think we should probably get right to it. So let's see if we can elaborate and explain a little bit to everybody how we can really use LinkedIn and achieve more of our professional goals and use it as a great tool.
Sure. Well, a lot of people think that LinkedIn is social media, but it's actually a business tool, Tyler. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is it allows us to do business with other people. It allows us to meet people, to network with people like you and I. We live on different sides of the world, and here we are on a YouTube live today talking with each other. So people can meet each other from all over the world, get to know them, and to develop their businesses and their knowledge via LinkedIn, which is one of the things that I just love about it. It's ideal for job hunters to be seen and to find new jobs. And if you have your own business, there are a wealth of opportunities to be able to use LinkedIn to be able to bring in business. But you know what? It's essentially about building visibility and credibility, and both of those lead to trust, which in the world today is a more and more valuable commodity.
All right, excellent. And you said if you're a business owner, you could use LinkedIn as a great tool to kind of grow your business. You care to elaborate maybe just a little bit on that for us?
Sure. Yeah, company pages are a great way for businesses to be able to get organic reach and to be seen by a wider audience. Anybody can have a company page. It's absolutely free. It's not difficult to set up. And that's what my book is all about, Business Gold. It's all about setting up a company page that you can then use to showcase and promote your products and your services and your people. Because, of course, your people are your biggest asset in business. And if you're able to use them to help amplify your message, you'll reach a greater audience. Now, LinkedIn has made it possible to use pages in a whole lot of different ways. And something that's just rolling out right at the moment is the ability to message a company page. Some company pages will already have this, and that means that people who want to find out more about the company can message the page directly, and somebody from the company can contact them. Up until now, the only way they've been able to do that is by direct message to a person. So LinkedIn is really putting in a lot of effort into pages and constantly adding new features to them, and that is just the latest.
That's awesome. So in the past, it was direct messaging, but now you're saying a company's page or a company could message the individual directly, just the company and the individual. Is that correct?
It's not quite as simple as that. You have to have received a message from an individual first, but then the company can respond. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be the case all through, forever, or whether in the rollout period, Tyler, this is just how they're arranging it. Because at the moment, that's only available for companies with one admin on the page. Now, I've got several admins on my company page, for example, which means then that I can't use this particular feature. It's not available to me. So LinkedIn tends to change things. It'll roll it out, it'll test it for a while, and then it'll make some changes to it and then roll it out to a greater number of people. So I would like to see, yes, that company pages can message people directly, but we'll have to wait and see whether that's going to be possible.
And I'm guessing that would be the admin that you're talking about. Would the admin be responsible then? Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. And then last question regarding the company pages, is it the admin, are you going to know who the admin is, or is it just going to be kind of anonymous? The company assigns the admin, and then you, as far as you know, are just messaging the company and you're not exactly sure who that admin is. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You won't know who the admin is unless they identify themselves directly to you. So whether that's a good idea or not, I'm not sure. But one of the reasons that I think that the theory of this, at least, is a good idea is that the latest HubSpot report about social media marketing talks about the importance of companies understanding that their customers want customer service via social media. And although I've already said that social media isn't necessarily how I would describe LinkedIn, a lot of people do. And so consequently, if they can message the company with customer service inquiries directly through LinkedIn, then I think that has got to be an advantage. Of course, it requires people to monitor that. I understand that, but people are already monitoring other varieties or other sources of customer service inquiries, so they can just add LinkedIn to the list.
Oh, excellent. I like it. I like it. And so if companies can really utilize LinkedIn to develop their brand and reach, others and develop a network, do you think it's important for individuals as well to utilize LinkedIn to develop a personal brand on LinkedIn?
I think it's essential, absolutely essential.
Okay.
Anybody who's in business or who describes themselves as a professional or a business professional, or even somebody who is working for a company needs to be on LinkedIn and have a personal profile. And I'll tell you one of the main reasons why, Tyler, when somebody Googles your name, one of the very first results that's going to come up is your LinkedIn profile. Like it or not, nothing you can do about it. So if you want to have make a really good impression with people, then you want to have a really good LinkedIn profile, because it's going to come up higher than your Facebook page or any other social media platform. Your LinkedIn or your LinkedIn profile is your public face on the world. So your personal brand is what's on your profile. It better be good.
So on mine, I just have kind of the basics. I'm definitely not as much of an expert as you. I can already tell. I've written 0 books on this topic. So, for somebody like me, how would you give me advice on how to increase my presence or build my personal brand, other than just adding basic skills relevant to my work and kind of just the basics. I think mine's not terrible, but I definitely would like to hear how I could improve, and I'm sure others out there would like to hear the same. What other things, especially you coming from your perspective, really catch your eye in exceptional LinkedIn profiles and or things that you'd like to see more of? Do you care to
Sure.
share about that?
Yeah, I think two things. First of all, LinkedIn profiles are a lot more visual these days than they used to be. They used to be very text heavy, but now you can add all kinds of different visuals to the profile. So I would secondly start at the top, and I would have a really eye-catching banner that reflects what you do, so that when somebody looks at your profile and the banner is the first thing they're going to see, that stops them in the tracks and helps them to understand what it is you do, but it also is eye-catching and it stands out. So the banner is the first thing that you need. The second thing as you move down is your profile photo, and you need a good professional photo. So head and shoulders and a nice big smile, so that you come across as nice and friendly and personable. So that's the second thing. And then you need a good headline, and a headline needs to tell people who you are and what you do, how you help people, or where your particular point of difference is. And sometimes you can also add something personal in there. So on mine, for example, I have that I'm a gardening addict, because I am. And it's amazing how many gardeners there are on LinkedIn. So consequently, then people already know something about me that's personal, and that's more than just what they're seeing about me in terms of business. So those are the first three main elements that you need on your LinkedIn profile. But the next thing that I would recommend is people add visual content to their featured section. You get three really good sized visual thumbnails that have images and videos or presentations, even posts and articles that you've already published on LinkedIn. They can all be pinned or displayed here, each with a title and a description, so that people can easily see them. Because of course, images and video are something that grabs people's eyes, right? Their attention. So making use of the visual elements of LinkedIn, I think, is something that is absolutely super important. Now, you've already mentioned skills, and I have to say that LinkedIn has made some changes to skills of recent months. That means that they are treating those as more important. And you can now add skills, 5 of them, to your about section. So that's the longest bit of text that you get on your profile, for 2,600 characters. And you can add up to 5 skills there that display right at the top of your profile. So what's not to love about that? Instantly people know what it is that you are good at. But really, if you're trying to do your profile and get it to a stage where you're really proud of it, and you think that it's really going to attract attention and is going to help people get to know you, is to make sure that you complete every single section. Now, you're not going to be able to do all of this at once. It takes quite a bit of work to do this, and you'd be best just to bite it off in bite-sized chunks would be my advice. And then just go through it bit by bit and make it as good as you possibly can, so that it will stand out when people come to visit.
All right. Well, did I hear you correct when you said that you could use or choose 5 skills? And is it only 5 skills?
Yeah, for that section, it's only 5. For all the other sections where you add skills, principally your experience and your education, you can add as many as you like. Now, in the skills section itself, you can have only a maximum of 50, which is plenty in my view. Any more just gets too complicated, right? So you would probably want 5 to 10 listed against each role that you have in your experience section.
So when you're choosing your skills, and maybe it's not as critical when you are going to the section where you can have up to 50, but when you're choosing your skills, would you put gardening in one of those?
No.
Because, so that's what I was going to say is there's a lot of different skills that we might be good at. For example, maybe I'm good at cooking, but is that relevant to my professional career? So in that sense, do you want to keep it a little more relevant rather than because you can add a lot of skills in there, right? And maybe it's not
Yeah.
exactly.
That's an interesting question, and I've never thought about it before. But no, I wouldn't be putting gardening in there because it's, as you say, is not part of my professional skill set. So I would be keeping the personal right out of that, absolutely. But it's a really cool idea, and I'm going to give that some thought because there's plenty of room for maneuver with LinkedIn, and I'm a bit of a maverick when it comes to the platform. I'll do things a bit differently, and
Uh-huh.
not necessarily the way that LinkedIn designed them. And so perhaps that is a good idea to add something like that that's just a little out of the box. I'm going to give that some thought, Tyler. Thank you.
And just a little bit on that as well, since we're kind of here. For me, and I'm sure others as well, I might have work experience or, for example, volunteer experience that doesn't really relate to my job currently or my industry. Now, it could be debatable. Maybe the volunteer work, even though it's not relevant, some people might see that as admirable, or just like your gardening, they could see it as a sense of connection or something that's common. I doubt it's going to be too controversial, but in this day and age, you really don't know. So, what's your advice there? Is it better, where do you draw the line for personal and professional in LinkedIn? Because it's not your normal social media platform. It's not Twitter. We're not on Instagram. We do want our audience to know a little bit about ourselves to create that sense of personality, but also maybe not too much, because we're also trying to keep it professional, and also things that might be controversial. You need to be kind of smart and use some common sense there. Do you have any insights on that, maybe?
Sure. Now, I think that if you add a volunteering section to your profile, it's a positive move because it shows you as a good community citizen, somebody who likes to give back. And I think that stands you in good stead with a pretty good number of things. But you are right about the cause. And there might be some causes that could well be volunteering that may not appeal to everybody. And I think you do have to be a little bit careful around that. Now, it may not matter. You may only want to do business with or work for companies that have that same mindset,
Sure.
but also you might not want to put people off. So it is, where do you draw the line? Now, I'm not a
Right.
sporting person. We've already established I'm a gardening person. But if I put up would somebody who put up some skills related to a volunteer work that they were doing, say, at a cricket club or a rugby club, would that put me off? No, it wouldn't, particularly because I don't see that as controversial. If somebody
Sure.
put up something that was political, perhaps then that would definitely be straying into the potentially difficult territory, and I know
Sure.
that can be a little bit of a problem. So I think that common sense needs to prevail with something like this, and you can always include business organizations, Toastmasters or BNI, both international organizations that are well known, well respected. And if you put both of those either of those onto your profile, for example, they would be a positive thing, not a negative thing.
So Toastmasters is okay, and maybe I should include common sense in my skill list, is what you're saying.
Not necessarily, but I
All
would like
right.
to think that most of us would have some common sense around these things. Yes.
Well, I've heard it said common sense isn't so common nowadays, but
I think you're right. Absolutely. No argument from me.
hopefully our profiles will speak for themselves in that regard, Lanier. But let's speak a little bit more about how we can strategize and use LinkedIn to create a more powerful network. How can we use LinkedIn and grow our network, or what strategies have you seen, or maybe could you recommend for us, or maybe somebody like me who's not as experienced?
Sure. I think the absolute important thing comes back to what you were saying about common sense, but more really about etiquette in a way. When you reach out to somebody to ask them to connect with you, to invite them to connect, you need to send a personal message. You need to
Mm,
say, "Hi, Tyler. You and I have come across each other as part of some work that we were doing together, or we both have worked with a particular person, or we both worked at the same company at one time, or whatever it might be that is synergistic." And you need to put that into a personal message, because that will then drop into my messaging box, and I will know that you've made the effort, A, to find out who I am and to look at my profile, and B, that you have made further effort to write me something that was personal to me. So the net result of that is, what am I going to do? First of all, I'm going to go to your profile and have a look and see who you are, which is always a positive thing if you've got a great profile. And then secondly, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say, sure, Tyler, nice to meet you. Thanks for reaching out. It's great to connect. Here's what I do. Do tell me a little bit more about what you do. And let's make sure that we make a time to either catch up or that we follow each other here on LinkedIn. Make that conversation go that one step further, because you don't want just to connect with somebody and then let the whole thing disappear. You want to be able to reach out to people, and like you would at a network meeting, you wouldn't go up to somebody in a network meeting and say, hey, my name's Lanier and I've got this great book, you really should buy it. You know, I'd go up to somebody and say, hi, I'm Lanier, tell me a bit about what you do. And that's the kind of attitude that you need to have, I think, with connecting on LinkedIn and growing your network, is being open to finding out about other people, because everybody loves to talk about themselves, don't we all? Everybody wants to share the information about themselves. So asking people about their favorite subject, which is going to be them, is likely to be a winner. Now, I wouldn't dare say that everybody will respond, because they won't, inevitably. Some people will reach out to connect with you, and they're just collecting names or, you know, connection numbers. They're not really interested in a dialogue, but you want to find the people who are, and who are then prepared to go along and the next step and develop a relationship with you further. Because the bigger your network of really good people who are active on the platform, the more your content will be seen by the people in their network, the people in your network, the people in their network, and then further out. It's a ripple out effect. So you want to have strong connections here on LinkedIn with some really good people, but it takes time. Tyler, you can't build a network of 10,000 connections overnight. LinkedIn limits the number of people that you can connect with. Yeah, so you can only send around about 100 a week. They tend to, depending on who you are, how long you've been on the platform, and a few other bits and pieces, you'll be able to send maybe a few more than that. But really, if you're sending 100 personalized connection invites a week and responding to those, then you may as well not go to bed. You might as well just stay up all night and have those conversations, because it takes time to do that. And that's where I think that people can fall off the wagon, if you like, with LinkedIn, is they start out with loads of enthusiasm, but they don't realize it's a long game. So you want to start as you mean to go on. And by that, I mean a few connection invites, maybe a week, and then maybe a day, because you want to be doing other things on LinkedIn too, not just inviting people to connect, because that's only the beginning. But you do need to start, and starting with a personalized message is absolutely the key.
So what I'm hearing is, I don't want to just go around and hand my business card out, essentially saying, here, add me, put my phone number in your contact list. Here you go.
You're right. Yeah. And let me come and sit in your office and try and sell to you. That is not what this is all about. This is about building those relationships that will develop into business, because we all do business with people we know, like, and trust. And so it's easy to do that on LinkedIn if you start the right way. But if you just connect with somebody and then you send them a message that as a list of all your products or what it is that you do, or trying to get on a call with them, or trying to make a meeting with them, then you're not going to get or get a job. You're not going to get very far. You've got to prove yourself, first of all, that you are worthy of even being considered for any of these things. And so that does take time. We don't instantly trust people, especially nowadays, and we only see people online. So you have to work harder to build that trust with people.
Right. Yeah. So you don't just see a list on Monday morning comes around and I have those 100 connections ready to go. And I just have a list of 100 people I'm either trying to maybe sell something to, or maybe a lot of people here are trying to get a job, and they're looking for potential employers. I don't want to just wake up Monday morning and start firing from the hip 100 connections out and just hope one of them bites the hook, right? You be more thoughtful, more meaningful. less is more, and quality over quantity in this situation. Developing those real connections is what I'm hearing here. And how can we actually search, and is there any better ways to search and find these potential connections that you're looking for? Somebody like me who doesn't really know much, like how would I look for potential employers? Or maybe if I'm trying to sell a product, how would I look for potential clients? Is there any tips or tricks you have for me?
Sure. It will depend what level of LinkedIn account you have, because there's the free account, and then there's a premium version of that, and then there's Sales Navigator, which is the professional tool for people who are in sales. And that has all kinds of functionality that's available for the price. It's not a cheap exercise, that's for sure, but it does give you the ability to keep records of who you've searched for and who you've approached, and the kind of information that you generally need in sales. But that doesn't mean to say you can't do it at the lower levels of account, because you can. And LinkedIn offers quite a number of search filters for you to determine who it is, this company that you might want fictitiously want to go and work for. And you can start by determining the location. So where are they in the general area, or in the a particular city perhaps? And then you can have a look by industry and narrow it down by that. Then you can decide how big the company is. Some people are big company employees, some people are little company employees mainly. And so you can determine that. And then you can start searching for the particular person that you want to connect with, who may be able to help you. Now, that may or may not be somebody who is in recruitment. Often establishing a relationship with somebody who's actually in a job or in a managerial role, say, in a department, is a good idea, because then you can get to know them and they can get to know you. And then when a job comes along, you're absolutely front and center if you are the right person for it. So I think that it's really important to use those search filters well. The problem really isn't finding the people you're looking for. The problem is narrowing it down, because often if you do a search that is very wide, you'll get something like about 9 million results. And I don't know about you, but that would take me quite a while to get through. So you need to be really specific when you're doing a search, and to then, as I say, narrow it down to the filters that you are really looking for. And you can get down as far as job title, so, and seniority and aspects like that. And there's more filters than that too. But generally, doing a search will really help you find people. Now, LinkedIn also recommends people for you. And on the My Network page, you'll find a whole bunch of people that LinkedIn thinks would make good people for you to follow. And you'll also find them in other places too. They just pop up out of the blue when LinkedIn sends you a prompt and says you should connect to this person, or this person is following somebody else. You might like to follow them too. So you'll get more follow prompts than you'll get connect prompts these days. And so certainly start by following somebody that you think might be a good connection. Get active. Comment on their posts, and then establish a relationship with them once they've seen you a few times.
Okay. And so the difference between following and connecting, I'm guessing, following, I'm just going to be, seeing what they're doing, getting notified about their activity, and then connecting is making that next level. And now they're part of my network.
Sure, it's I describe it as being a communication in one way or in two ways. So if you're following somebody, it's just one-way connection. But if you're connected to somebody, it's a mutual agreement. You've asked them to connect and they've said yes, so you have both agreed, and so the communication is two ways. That's the easiest way to describe it. But on a company page, there are only followers. You can't connect to a company page. It has followers only. So it's a little bit different.
Now, do you think it really matters? Let's say I'm trying to connect with Bob, and he is the general manager of ABC Company. Do you highly recommend that I follow ABC Company and try to establish a rapport? Is that something that you think Bob's going to actually pay attention to, or notice or recognize?
I think that you should follow Bob and the company page. And it's you make a
Okay.
really good point, Tyler, because if the company page is posting content, then you could be commenting on those posts
Oh,
and come to the notice of Bob or whoever else might be managing that page. But also, if Bob is posting himself, then you want to be commenting on those posts as well. So Bob sees you there too, because you don't want to be invisible. And Bob's a busy man. He's got a lot going on. So you need to stand out from other people. So if Bob's put up a post about something the company's doing and you're interested in working for the company, then you need to comment on that post and say how innovative it is or how exciting it is and how that looks great or whatever it might be, something a bit more gutsy than that, really. That's a bit kind of superficial, I have to say, but something that is really going to grab Bob's attention and shows him that you know your stuff, because remember, it's about building credibility and trust. And Bob, you want Bob to see you as somebody who is knowledgeable. So the more ways that you can get in touch with Bob and get in front of him, the better. So once Bob's seen you a few times, you might then want to, and you're following him, you might want to reach out and connect to him, and then you can start direct messaging him. And that's really going to help too, because then you can start having that personal one-to-one conversation.
excellent, excellent. And you can you just mention or touch on something you mentioned? I'm sorry, the premium, and is there a sales navigator? Is that a different level than premium?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there a free
yeah.
level, a premium level, and sales navigator? Is that the three tiers here that I'm?
That's the three tiers, absolutely.
Okay.
So now, just to be clear, nobody has to pay for LinkedIn. You can have a free account and do a lot of things on LinkedIn without having to pay for an account. However, LinkedIn is currently adding features to the premium level that really make it much more attractive to people to pay for. Now, as I've said, it's not inexpensive, but it's worth having if you want these particular features. And there've been about half a dozen of those so far this year, perhaps even more. To be fair, I've not counted. There's been nearly 100 new features so far,
Wow.
and it's really huge this year, no question. And so consequently, it might be that premium membership is something that is useful to you now. But with a Sales Navigator account, that's more at a company level, right? So a company would have a Sales Navigator account for each of its sales team, so that those sales members or sales team members can go and make sure that they are searching in the right way, have got it all organized and are able to save those searches so they know who they've looked for, and really narrow down the people that they approach, because as I've already said, it's a huge ocean out there, and the difficulty is going to be narrowing it down to the people who might be potential leads or customers for you.
Okay. And I don't want to stay too much on this topic, but the sales navigator, did you just say that the company is going to have to get an account for each individual sales rep or each individual, or would one company be able to have the sales navigator tier, if you will, and then everybody in that company be able to access that?
I think that
Those
that's an
features.
enterprise level Sales Navigator that you're talking
Oh,
about there. And I think that there are several different levels of that. So
okay.
yes, you'd have a certain number of licenses. You'd buy, you'd get Sales Navigator at that level and would have a certain number of licenses. So a certain number of people could use it. That would be how it works. But you can, individuals can also get Sales Navigator if that's the case. And we do that with our clients. Each of our clients buy Sales Navigator because it's really helpful in determining searches and making sure that we reach out to the right people on their behalf. So I wouldn't say that Sales Navigator is useful for everybody. Premium is pretty good for most people, but if you're just starting out on LinkedIn, you don't need anything at all.
Okay, excellent. Well, I don't think I'm going to be at that level yet, but who knows? Maybe after this interview, and maybe a couple of your books, I'll be ready.
Yeah.
Hey, somebody had mentioned something recently, LinkedIn influencer. Now I've heard of influencers on, other social media platforms, but I didn't really correlate influencer and LinkedIn before. Is that a thing?
Well, I think it depends how you define it, Tyler, really. If you mean a LinkedIn influencer is somebody who knows about LinkedIn, is a bit of an expert and is on LinkedIn all the time, and other people go to them for advice about LinkedIn,
And
well,
that would
then,
be
yeah,
you.
there is. That would be me. Well,
Right.
then, yeah, but I hesitate to call myself an influencer in that kind of way because I don't see it as influencing. I see it as helping people to get the most out of the platform, which I think is a completely different sort of a meaning. But if you take it, go down that track a bit further, then there are influencers in every industry, and you can be
Mhm.
an influencer in a certain industry, take sales, for example, and be on LinkedIn. So does that make you a LinkedIn influencer? So you can see how I mean about how you define it. But are there people on LinkedIn with huge following who aren't necessarily talking about LinkedIn, but are talking about their own niche? Absolutely. Thousands upon hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of them. And they all have their own area of expertise, and they are what you might describe as influencers in their industry or their company or environment. But they are on LinkedIn, so therefore they can be seen because they use that the LinkedIn platform to be able to spread their message.
So it sounds like these people might have a little more clout, if you will, than your average LinkedIn user. And, we were just talking about a little bit about connecting and reaching out. It sounds like some of these individuals, if they are related to my particular industry or field that I'm in, they may be a great resource for me to connect with. Um, Eh, Is there anything you might recommend or any ways, anything different other than, maybe like we were talking about Bob at the ABC company? Maybe John over here is an influencer and ABC company, highly respects John. Is there anything that we should do differently if we're trying to reach out and connect with John, if you will, to create that connection in our network and see if that'll help us open some doors for
Sure.
us?
You may not be able to reach Bob. Let's stick to Bob. Let's call him Bob. You may not be able to reach Bob because he's at too high a level. So directly, I'm talking about. So how might you reach him in other ways? Well, you could reach the people around him. Everybody has a network of people around them. And if you were to find out the people who were in his sphere, either really close to him and know him personally, or even that next level out who know of him and have worked with him, or perhaps at the same company, then that gives you an in, because it's going to be slightly indirect if you're going to try to get to the top level people, because they're not going to just go, I'm really open to everybody. You can't connect to everybody on LinkedIn. You have a maximum, and I think it's 30,000 connections that you
Really?
can have. It might be 35, but I think let's say 30. 30,000 connections, but you can have unlimited followers. So the people that you see with those huge networks of followers, say Bob might have 100,000 followers, he's not going to know a lot of those people because, as we've already discussed, it's one-way connection or one-way communication. So if you want Bob to notice you, you've got to give him a good reason. Now, you can do that in a couple of ways. You can be really active on the platform yourself and be writing content that is allied to the content that Bob is putting out. And it might be that you might share a post of Bob's with your own opinion about it or your own knowledge, or sharing it more widely. And Bob, if you've tagged him into that post, or even if you haven't, is going to notice that you are sharing his content with his audience. Now, that's going to make Bob well disposed towards you because you're doing that job for him and getting the message out there. Again, you're going to get noticed by Bob. Now, you can, as I just said, also tag people into content. And while that's a really good idea, because if they're paying attention, they will see that, where that can come unstuck is if the person doesn't respond to your post. So say you've written this great post about Bob and what he's doing and how you think he's wonderful and all these great innovations, but Bob doesn't respond to that post, then you are going to be penalized by LinkedIn because Bob hasn't responded. The purpose of that is to stop people creating these walls of tags where everybody from Richard Branson right through to Barack Obama are all listed in this wall of tags, which is just crazy, right? So you want to make any tagging that you do relevant to the people that the post is all about, because otherwise your post is going to be penalized. I also think it's bad etiquette to be doing that, to be putting up a post about something that and tagging somebody who has no relevance to that particular post. So you do have to be careful around all of that. There's no question. But you know, one of the things that I remember Jordan Harbinger saying a lot on his podcast in the early days was you need to make yourself useful to people. If you want to network and get good, solid relationships with quality people, then you need to be useful to them in some way. Now, this is a bit of a difficult one, and I don't quite really know how everybody would do this. This is not just one easy answer that I can give you. But here's the thing. I think that if you are showing willing by being active on LinkedIn and by getting to know some of Bob's people, the people around him, by sharing his content, by commenting on his own content, so you're doing it in two ways, sharing and commenting, then Bob is going to notice you over a period of time if you say good quality things. Now, just engaging on a post with great post Bob is meaningless, and Bob will not really thank you for that because it's not helping anybody. But if you go on to Bob's post and say, I really enjoyed your point about X, Y, and Z, can I ask a question about A, B, and C, and then tag Bob into that, then Bob may see that and then respond. All of a sudden, you've got a dialogue going on. And we all know what happens from there. You can reach out and connect because Bob knows your name. And then you can start that process of developing that relationship. You might be able to help Bob by offering him some information or introducing him to somebody that he might want to know who is in your network. Just be open to those networking opportunities on LinkedIn, just as you are in real life if you are at a business networking meeting.
Okay, excellent. And just wanted to make sure, and Bob would be somebody that has a high following, that of maybe an influencer like we're kind of talking about, right? Somebody might be more difficult to get it. Okay. And it looks like we have a couple of questions, but we can probably save that for the end here. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. You mentioned groups earlier, Lanier, LinkedIn groups. Now I'm a novice here. Could you help me a little bit about learn a little bit about groups?
Sure. So groups are where people who have a particular interest in one topic might get together and share information and ideas. And it works a bit the same with groups as groups on other platforms like Facebook and so on. And so there would be a sales managers group in New Zealand or in the US or wherever. And so people can go to those groups and then meet the members in those groups. Now, groups at one time were really super popular. And you'll find groups have got huge numbers of members. And then you'll find some that are really only small and some that are private, and you have to be invited or pay to join those. Now, the bigger groups have some disadvantages in that they are really, really large, but they do give you access to a lot of people. And so where you were saying to me earlier, how do you find good people to connect to? Well, groups are a good way to do that. And if you go to, say, a sales managers group, then you'll find a lot of people who may be potential connections for you. So they are good in that way, but they behave like a normal feed. So So you can put posts into groups depending on the group's individual rules. But where they all came unstuck and why they're now not nearly so popular is because people would just spam the group. They'd put up lots of promotional posts about what they did, and that's really not a super way to be able to get known on LinkedIn or to extend or enhance your credibility. In fact, it does the reverse. So I think the groups have a place, but they're not for everybody, and I'm not entirely certain that I would even recommend that people spend a lot of time there.
Okay, excellent. So I'll try to focus my energy elsewhere. And
Good idea.
how can I effectively leverage content marketing on LinkedIn? How would
Oh, I
you?
hope you're ready to settle in for a good long conversation on this one.
All right, let's
Content,
go. I'm ready. My pen
content
up.
marketing on LinkedIn. All right. Well, one of the things about creating content is that it feeds into everything that we've already talked about in terms of personal branding and being seen on LinkedIn. It's ideal for building your credibility and your visibility here on the platform. So there are lots of different types of format. And if you're not keen on writing, I'm a professional writer. So writing is one of the things I do on a daily basis, and I'm always pleased to be writing content, but you may not be. You may like video. If you want to do video content, you can do that. If you want long form, you want events like we're doing today, there's all those different kinds of content that you can put up on LinkedIn. And I love the fact that, again, it's a level playing field pretty much. Your posts will on LinkedIn will do as well as mine if we've got the same number of connections or following. So it really is a good way to share your knowledge and your expertise with other people on LinkedIn. Now, when I first started on LinkedIn several years ago, I was a copywriter. I had my own business as a copywriter, and I knew nothing about LinkedIn at all. But once I discovered LinkedIn, I started writing about LinkedIn and my own journey on LinkedIn. And gradually over time, I learned from my mistakes, from experiments, trying different things. And as new features came available, I certainly got right into those. And now I am one of the world's top 20 LinkedIn experts. Now that's happened simply because I have been on
Nice.
the platform over a period of time that has really helped me to learn, and I've learned from the other people who know all about this, because LinkedIn is a sharing, learning environment. And if you, it's just because I'm an expert in LinkedIn doesn't mean to say that other people in other industries can't become experts in their field through their content creation on LinkedIn. I just happened to write about LinkedIn because it was more interesting to me than copywriting. And who cares about punctuation and grammar anyway? So to me, this has been a journey. Now, I'm just an ordinary person. I live in a very small country, a very long way from anywhere else. And so for me to have been able to reach an international standard and status simply by being on LinkedIn, and let's be clear, I don't do much other marketing. I have a very small YouTube presence, and that is about it. If I can do it, then anybody else can do it too. It's a matter of being consistent with your content and showing up here regularly. And when I say regularly, at least once a week, preferably more, with really good quality content that people want to read.
And you think this is important for whether it's going to be a business, a company page, maybe a sales representative, somebody like yourself, maybe a literal LinkedIn influencer, or maybe just a regular somebody looking for a job, just a regular person, an individual who's not employed yet, not even affiliated with any company, but maybe they have an industry and they're looking for employment. Or maybe a small company who is just looking for good talent. You think it's important for everybody across the board to really market this content that we're talking about?
I don't think so, no. I think that
Okay.
it's fair to say that there are some situations where that's not necessarily a good idea. I think that if you are starting out in your career, for example, you are better spending your time engaging on other people's content rather than creating your own,
Okay.
because you are still learning, right? And you don't want people to be writing you off because you're not terribly knowledgeable, because you're sharing something, because you're at the beginning of your journey, right? So what
Yeah.
you do need to be doing is looking for other strategies. I think that if you are an employee, and you're, mid-career, say, for example, and you do want to either become known as an expert in a particular subject or a thought leader, or you are looking to move into a new role, a new company, or a new industry even, sharing your knowledge on LinkedIn via content is a really good way to do it. But it takes time, and it is, again, needs consistency over a long period of time. It's like that connecting thing we talked about earlier. You can't connect to 1 million people in a day. You're not going to get 1 million views on your content in a day either. And you need to learn about it and be able to develop, get better at it as time goes by. For a long time, I resisted doing videos on LinkedIn because I really wasn't a fan. I didn't enjoy the technical side. I found it really difficult. I didn't like looking at myself. And so consequently, I was a really late adopter to video. But what I discovered was when I finally got myself together on this and got over all of that, people really responded well to the videos. And people are used to video these days. And it's something that we all watch on a regular basis. So using video on LinkedIn, I think, is a really good idea if that is something that you feel comfortable with. And let's face it, young people grow up doing video these days. They do them in their bedrooms from the time they're tiny. And so by the time they get into the workforce, they're really experts at it. So turn that skill that we talked about earlier into something that is useful on the platform, and showcase what you're doing, your knowledge, your thoughts, your opinions, or ideas in a video, if that's something that appeals to you. Because as I said, there's lots of different formats. But is it ideal for everybody? Absolutely not. And you have to make that decision for yourself.
Excellent. I like and respect that answer. Appreciate it. And I think everyone else did. And, it looks like we're getting close here toward wrapping it up. So I'm going to look towards the questions from the audience and give you an opportunity to not only answer my questions, but some others as well. So this is a great one from Leo. What are some common mistakes professionals make on LinkedIn, and how can we avoid them to maximize our chances of achieving our professional goals?
Great question, Leo, and thank you for asking it. The major mistake that people make is not sending those personalized connection invites when they're really starting out and trying to develop their network. That is the main thing that people do. But also, I think equally right up there in the major mistakes is not having a really good, compelling LinkedIn profile. You need to have it complete. You need to have it eye-catching, and people need to be able to look at it at a glance and know what it is that you do. So having a really good profile is important, and you need to fill it out, all those sections, and add as much detail as you possibly can. Don't write it like a CV, and don't write it like it's in the third person. Talk about me and I rather than Bob. Bob does this and Bob did that, right? You want to make it personal and personable so that people will actually read it. So I think that if you do those two things, then you will be well ahead of a lot of people, definitely.
All right, so let's focus on making that strong profile and definitely reaching out meaningful connections.
Definitely. Those two things are a really good start. Those are the two major mistakes I see most often.
And then obviously don't put out too much controversial content. Right?
Oh no, that would be, mind you, you'd get some good views. You would get some really, really good views on your post. Whether you want those views and you want that kind of engagement is a debatable point, Tyler. You're in really risky ground when you're starting to do controversial stuff.
I guess it depends on what what field I'm in. So or what my goal is there. But there's another maybe mistake, maybe not. Faran has asked, Would having multiple resumes on LinkedIn create difficulties or confusion during the job application process?
Okay, so I'm not certain by what they mean by multiple resumes, because I wouldn't advise putting your resume on LinkedIn particularly. I would use my profile to show people what it is that I have done and the roles that I've had. So if she's talking, he or she, sorry, they are talking about resume in that sense, then I don't think I would do that unless you are putting it on as a PDF, in which case I'm not entirely certain why you would do that, as well as having your profile. So I think the question's a bit confusing, but don't confuse your profile with your resume, because it's not. It's completely different. Certainly you want people to know about your roles and your experience. That's absolutely true. But your LinkedIn profile is much more than your resume. It is your personal brand. And that's what you need to keep front and center when you're on LinkedIn.
So I guess going back to talking about our gardening skills, we want to keep it relevant and make sure we're organized and to the point. It doesn't hurt to talk about us a little bit personally, but we definitely want to make sure we're engaging the right audiences and have a clear intention.
Yes.
Now, speaking of skills, are those LinkedIn skills tests? Mary A has asked this question, by the way. Are those LinkedIn skills tests more important than posting online certificates for courses completed?
I would think not. I would think your certificates would be more important because they can be visual. People can see those. And I'm not entirely certain that the testing that is done would necessarily be relevant to Mary's job. It's what LinkedIn might think might be relevant, but it may not actually be the things that are most important. So no, I would be going for the visuals with the certificates if I was Mary, definitely.
Okay. But if you have the option to do both,
well, look, I think part of that whole skill area is the ability to add videos. And now this is not something that I've done, but if that's possible, I think that that's a very good idea, to be able to create a video about a particular skill that you might have that you want people to know about. Now, I think that would work quite nicely. You might want to bury it in the skills section. You might want to have it up in your featured area where people do see it. But that's the kind of thing I think that would work really nicely. So definitely, if you were doing something like that, rather than just doing a skills test, I think might be more useful.
that seems like a little bit of a content creation as well. Would you agree, or is that completely would that be a different?
I think that's a different thing
Okay.
altogether, really. Skills and content creation sort of fit into different buckets.
Well, and I think so. Sam has asked this question, and I know we've touched on it. Let's just see if there's anything else you care to elaborate, Linaire. So Sam says, in terms of content creation on LinkedIn, what types of posts tend to generate the most engagement and yield positive results in terms of networking and professional growth? And I think we have talked about this a little bit and kind of touched on it, but it doesn't hurt to go
No,
back.
and let me tell you about something else that I think that really does answer Sam's question, and that is document post. Now, we haven't covered that at all, so let's talk briefly about that. A document post is where you have some text as an introduction, and then you have what's really known as a slideshow. It could be a PDF of a PowerPoint presentation. It could be created in Canva. Whatever it is that you have got as a presentation of some kind, which is really slides, and people scroll through them. Now, if those are really visual and they have a really good headline or a cover page on them that's eye-catching, and it's got a topic that people want to know about, people will make the time to watch them. Don't make them 50 pages long. You want them to be sort of around 10 to 20 pages maximum, if that. But do make them eye-catching, and then you'll find that that is a really good way to spark engagement, because people will look at those. People who are not even readers and don't want to read long form content, and they don't want to look at video, they will look at those slides. So I think that's a really good way of adding content to your profile. Now, one of the things that LinkedIn's made a change to this year, which I absolutely love, is the activity page. So if I was to visit Bob's profile, Bob's been very busy this call, hasn't he? If I went to visit Bob's profile, I would be able to see all Bob's content listed under different tabs. So I would see his image posts under one tab, his video posts under another, his document posts, etc. And so that allows people to look at your content by the type of format that you've created it in. So say, for example, Bob, I want to look at Bob's content, but I'm not a fan of long form content. I don't want to read a lot of stuff. I want to have a look at Bob's videos. I can go directly to that tab and just look at Bob's videos. And this means that you can reach a much wider audience because people can find your content much more easily than they were ever able to do before. And I just love that. I think that's just a great way for people to be able to choose different kinds of content that works really well for them. Because if they don't choose to do videos, then there won't be a video tab. If they don't choose to do documents, no document tab. And that's so really what you can see in that activity section is exactly what people have already done. I just love that, and I think it's ideal, and I'm really pleased LinkedIn's made this change.
Wow. Yeah, Lynette, that's a lot of great information for me to process. And I think you answered Sam's question wonderfully. You've certainly given me a lot of things to think about and ways to improve my profile. And that's almost all the time we have. I thank you so much it's been a pleasure for making the time for us. I think everybody has learned a lot, and I know I'm certainly going to work on my LinkedIn profile and work on making those 100 connections this week. But like
I'll be watching, Tyler. I'll be watching. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. You've been a great host. Thank you.
Awesome, Lynette. I'll have to come visit you in lovely New Zealand, right? New Zealand?
Please do. Please do.
Looking forward to it. Well, thank you so much, Lynette. Everyone, Clarusway, and all the attendants. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.